Aye.
All right, and a motion to adjourn administration and finance.
Move to adjourn A and F.
Second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All right, we're adjourned.
This is so different from construction. I'm telling you, they just say you're gone. They tell you at 3 and then you're gone at
Okay,
3:30.
Safety and Development Committee meeting will come to order. Members are present. First item on the agenda is item 13. This is a resolution relative to the determination of an application for special use permit to establish a mixed use commercial and residential for the existing residential duplex property at 14.
Angelito, don't forget to turn your microphone back on.
18.
Sorry, I forgot.
South 81st Street. This, we talked briefly about it at the last meeting. This is, Mr. Budiak wants to put a tent up in the backyard of a property. And do you have any comments now?
Yeah,
A brief,
Attorney Jim Andringa, yes.
okay.
I'm here to answer any questions. I'm also a little bit late to the party, and I apologize. I tried to talk to a planner, and I was unable to do so. I've read the application for the special use permit. As I understand it today, the only application applicability for this is to put up the tent that would be for next year in 2022. And right now, the use of that tent would be part of a different application process that they have to go through for an extension of premises permit. So that's my understanding, and I'm literally just getting this today when I show up at the meeting because I didn't get any other information that I was able to achieve. I thought we were actually here for many different aspects of it, but as it's been explained to me, they're here just to be able to get the special mixed use allowance, which would allow them to put up the tent. The tent will be limited for a time frame and everything else and the use, but that's to be dealt with the extension of premises permit, which would be separate and apart. So I think you kind of have an idea of what they intend to use for that tent, but right now, this is just next year, basically between what's likely to be Labor Day to the end of September, or Memorial Day to the end of September, they'd like to have a tent on the premises.
Is that for all of that period of time, or are you talking just when you have events there?
the reason why we put it there, because it doesn't impede flow through from the traffic. It also blocks as much sound as possible.
Well, I understand why. My question is your intention to have it up from Memorial Day to Labor Day, or just the weekends where you have an event?
We can do it either way, but it's just cheaper to rent it by the month. So it's a big difference. If they have, it's $500 to put it up, $500 to take it down, plus the rental fee. So if they would do this twice a month, it's an extra $2,000. Over 3 months, that's an extra $6,000. So that way, and those are, right now, those are reasonable prices through our vendors because we have contracts for US Foods and things like that. So.
And to kind of answer that, the events that take place will still be limited, very limited, probably to approximately 10 hours of the entire week. So otherwise, the tent is just going to be there vacant.
Yeah, it's all speculation based upon what the license committee decides
Correct.
at that time.
Everything is coinciding with that, so we wanted to make sure everything was correct in the eyes of the city, because it wasn't brought up until this year when we had other things on. So we wanted to make sure that everything was all right, and that's why we chose this. So yeah, everything is based upon license and health anyhow.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, or
Alderman Haas?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I have a big problem with this. The whole reason we authorized a tent like this to be put up was an extension of the COVID extension of premises over COVID, trying to help bars by extending their premises to try and deal with COVID so that they could have some outdoor music and still be able to make some revenue. By doing this, we're making permanent a temporary COVID restriction. If I lived within a block or a couple blocks of Paulie's, I would be irate that every weekend there's a big party that I have to listen to all the time. and that's not what we're looking for in our city. We don't allow any other license holders to have an ongoing party every weekend with outdoor music. Indoor music is one thing. This is outdoor music that would definitely disturb the neighborhood. I'm strongly against this.
Mr. Chair,
Alderman Weigel?
I guess I'm looking for a little clarity here too. Paul, you own the duplex next door. Okay. Was it posted for sale? Did I not see it on Zillow like a month ago? Did you have it up?
Never been for sale.
180? No? No? It was, okay. Maybe that's,
The reason why we have all those parcels is if we were gonna sell, we would sell as one.
yes, I understand that.
It makes more sense because that is a broken up little area in there, so that's in.
So if we vote for this, in the affirmative of this tonight, you're saying this is just so you can put the tent there?
Just based upon the recommendations from licensing health.
Right. You could put the tent in the backyard of that property regardless,
That's not what I
I
was.
believe. Not sure. Can I put a tent in my backyard of a residential property?
Attorney Decker?
So the difference is you couldn't for the purpose of renting it out to a band for which you
Well,
then charge
that's a
admission.
separate issue. That's a separate issue.
Well, that's why he's here, is
Yeah.
because he doesn't want to just put a tent up for the occupants to use it. He wants to
Right.
put it up for a commercial purpose, and so it
Right.
becomes a mixed use. It's not incidental to the duplex, it's incidental to the bar.
Right,
So that's why he's here, the
I
specialist.
understand that, you know. And part of the problem is, there's a residential property right next door, that apartment building, that I get consistent complaints about. And the volume of the music, and it's not late at night necessarily, but it's 6 o'clock on a Saturday, or excuse me, 6 o'clock on a Sunday, and I don't know, I'm not in favor of the continuing loud music, pretty much for the same reason as Alderman Haas said. My belief was that we did what we could to help get through the COVID issues when your customers weren't allowed to go inside or they felt uncomfortable going inside. Clearly, I think we're past that now. I think you demonstrated, because oftentimes the band is outside, and then you have another band inside that day. So I'm not in favor of this for this ongoing music. I might vote for this, but I can tell you I'd be strongly against 10 hours a week all summer long. You know, nobody wants to live next to a church festival every weekend. You know, people have tolerated those in the past. You know, oh, my church, you know, yeah, you knew it when you bought the house. You knew it when you bought the house, the church was there. You knew St. Al's was there, St. Greg's or whatever, okay? But the people living in your neighborhood didn't have this when they either bought or moved in, okay? So I have a family member who lives on 87th and Orchard. She says she can hear the band like your front yard, okay? And
And those are the things that we adhere to what license and health, along with the health department. Maybe the 100 decibels is too high, maybe it needs to go to 90 if we're doing events. We're not necessarily saying that we're doing any events or gonna apply for any events. This has been stressful for the last 2 years in doing this because the target has been moving.
yes, I
It
know.
has, okay? And we've tried to do everything legally and as much as we possibly can, you know?
I understand if we say yes to this tonight and you invest in having a tent installed, and then License and Health says no every week,
Right,
you're gonna have a no.
right.
Okay, what does that do to the long-term use of that property? Does this special use move on with the property?
I would think so.
Sure, so any special use permit can be limited not only in duration, but also you can make it non-transferable,
Oh.
which means that only Polly could use it, and if he ever would sell the property, it would go away. You can also put an expiration date on it, that there's no right to renewal of that special use permit, so you could put it up, you put it up for 1 year or 2 years or something, and then it would expire, you'd have to come back and apply again, if you wanted to continue it. And unlike the alcohol license, which, when that expires, there is a right to renewal, a special use permit, there'd be no right to renew that type of permit.
Mr. Chair,
Alderwoman Keene?
I'm not against live music. Even without the COVID factor, I do feel some of the events were a little much in a week. And I wouldn't even, if we could put stipulations on the special use that it stays within a certain owner and it stays within this time frame, I would absolutely consider it. But I think we're putting the cart before the horse because we don't know what next year is going to bring. We don't know if we're going to continue on with the extension of use. We don't know the amount that it's going to be allowed, the timeframes, and I think that that would be determined on the decision. So I would be in support of it with restrictions on it. It stays within the owner. It's within these timeframes, but I would want to know what was approved before we were to dive into this, would be my honest opinion.
I'm thinking, if we approve this, can we make it contingent upon the License and Health Committee giving them approval for a special event, and the tent can only be up during those days?
He doesn't want to take the tent up and down, that's the expense.
Which makes
he's trying to get
sense.
rid of. I get that.
I understand that, he doesn't want to. I mean, I'm saying, can we make that restriction?
So,
I know it's less expensive for him, you know, if he can leave it up.
Yeah.
I'm looking at it from other properties in the city, they might want to put it up where the neighbors don't want it up all year,
so
or all month, or
the beauty of the special event, or the special use permit, is that it's highly customizable. And so the council would place a condition, that would be a type of condition you could place, and it would be up to the applicant to decide if they want to accept the permit with that condition. If the idea is to essentially condition the use of the property only during the times in which the licensed premises is extended outdoors at Polly's, given, I should ask, can I just ask the applicant? What is the ownership situation for Polly's and the duplex? Is it the same entity that owns both, or is it different?
Paul and Christine Budiak, where it's gonna be, that, when I had asked originally if I needed transfer ownership to Paulie's Pub and Eat, or Budiak Properties LLC, I was told no because it was contiguous. That's
Yeah.
what, so I
Separate
assume.
entities.
Oh,
So
okay.
we can change the ownership, but it's
You don't-
so hard to tell.
No, you
because-
don't have to. I just wanted just to clarify so I could get my answer right.
Because
So,
there's terminology that seems like it's different, because it's a mixed use, not a special use, right? Is what I've.
it's
been-
both.
both.
Okay,
It's both.
Because it's a mixed use, it needs a special use
Right.
permit.
okay, so, yeah, in all the caveats, we have no idea what's gonna go on, so that's why we're fine doing it tied to license and health and whatever they decide. You know, and there, it's hidden between everything. My tenants already know that that's part of their lease, that they don't have that parking, depending on what goes on.
So,
And, sorry, one more thing. If it gets denied tonight, according to the ordinance, it cannot be brought up for another year, so it won't be brought up for September. So,
I was gonna suggest that we not vote on this tonight.
Yeah, I
And
would
we
too.
hold
Is there a reason?
I just.
You
want
don't need to, you don't
everything-
need to know now. It's
Right,
it's
but
not
I-
about
I'd
renting a
like to make
tent.
sure everything's above board.
Right,
So
I understand
it's
that.
easier
Sure,
if
and
I
I
do
appreciate that, yes, yeah, yeah,
Right.
yeah.
The plan commission
Right.
the planners recommended the application now and everything else, that's
Yeah.
why they're here.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I would say we'll know better where we are in the COVID world in, say, January,
Yep, no, you're right.
right?
It's, no, you
And
have no
I'd hate
idea.
to say no tonight and then us be back in a,
Next year
And
at
keep
this
in mind,
time,
the plan
you
commission
can't do anything
recommended
then.
it
Right,
because we were trying to find a way around all the many, many complaints. So that was our
comes
attempt
to our desk.
of saying, hey, what can we do so you can continue on with what you do, and we also keep citizens happy. So that was part of the reason to bring that up, to get you up to speed.
With regard to the complaints, my understanding, and please correct me if I'm wrong, the complaints were, it's too loud, and that was.
Too loud, too
probably-
frequent.
Okay, too loud and too frequent, but it
One guy
did-
didn't like the music, the style of music too, but we're gonna leave that taste.
Yeah.
I got Guns N' Roses tattooed on my chest. But it wasn't in violation to what was permitted to them, correct? But
I don't know, I don't
My
know
understanding
that.
is-
I don't know that.
Well, the way that would work is you would get a citation. If he was in violation, he would have been warned and he would have been issued a citation. The fact of the matter is if
Not
it
exactly,
turned out to
though.
be too broad or too much, the answer is, can we narrow it such that it's still viable for business? And that's what we're
Right,
gonna have
and
to
that's
talk
what
about.
we would talk about with
That's what
license
you
and health, but
mentioned,
keep in mind that he wouldn't always get a citation. Citizens don't always call the cops, they call
They call
us.
us the next day.
So, I mean, so
I
we don't
completely
know if it was over 100 decibels, I know you're good with your decimal reader, I'm not saying it is, but what we're saying is, we can't clearly say right now that nothing was against violation because we don't know that, so.
Okay, I'm pretty confident that if there was a violation, it would have come to the floor somehow before this. My typical, I represent municipalities as well, so this isn't my first rodeo. What I'm saying is that can be worked on. We're definitely willing to work on this. My biggest concern about this just is you have a 12-month restriction. So if the concept, and I want to make sure that everybody understands, we're just here for the tent.
Right.
All the
Yep.
other parameters have to be worked out somewhere else.
Right,
And my
license
biggest
committee.
concern is you say no to the tent, it's nixed everything else because
Right.
we're restricted for a full year to come back unless
Well,
there's
and
a
that's-
substantial change.
Why I'd prefer that we probably don't, could we hold this till like January 18th?
Well,
So we
can-
know what we're
why
going to
don't-
be
why
doing
don't
with
we hold it
license and health?
until Attorney Kale and,
We'll look at,
and the aldermen in the district,
do we want to have a neighborhood meeting?
Tracy and Marty, get together with,
I would want
Hale
some
and
sort
the
of
owners,
restriction of
everything goes to the
one,
license committee.
one per month involved in the plan, in the special use. Once a month, not every weekend, and every night of every weekend. That's the plan currently.
Or X number
That's-
during the summer.
So,
The plan, we originally, through License Health, we had 4 days. The Tuesdays we stopped after the first.
4 days a week.
4 days a week.
Yeah, that's more than
Yeah.
I thought. Okay, stop talking, Paulie. You're not helping yourself.
I'm being honest, we did one Friday night, all the rest were Saturday afternoons and Sunday afternoons and Monday, 5:30 to 8:30. So we understand that at least the week ones, will not be a part of anything next year whatsoever. So we understand that, and this is something that we're growing with too.
Right.
Because it was extremely, extremely long hours. These are like.
And Paulie, you could do all the inside entertainment that you want, as long as during your open hours, right?
Right,
There's no restriction on any indoor entertainment,
And there
right?
are still
Okay,
people that
thank
are-
you, thank you,
are-
thank you.
There's still people
Thank
that
you.
that are
All right,
afraid of COVID.
thank you.
All right, I think the direction of the committee is that the attorney's office and the older people of the district, and Mr. Budiek's attorney or he himself,
I'll get with
try to
Tracy.
formulate some kind of a plan that's gonna be acceptable also to the License and Health Committee.
so the thought is then to postpone this one
Yes.
until the next
Hold-
meeting?
I would say, why don't you give it, next meeting's October, why don't you wait until November, December? Don't wait till December, maybe we'll have a better feel on the COVID situation then.
I don't know, if we're gonna have a better feel of that, but.
Maybe not.
So if
Mr. Chair, may I ask a question?
Alderwoman Grisham.
Thank you. I just had a question. Are you presenting this because you have a contract with the tent company and you
No.
need to secure this? I just want clarification.
No,
on that.
the reason why we did it is because we went for a building permit for the garage to do a side thing. Because when we had talked before, there was wording that I was under the assumption that we could use our garage to sell out product. Okay, so we wouldn't have to clean, we wouldn't have to, we could lock it, do everything, okay? So when it was, we applied for the permit, talked to Ed, he said, okay, this is triggering this and this and this and this. So then, when Aaron said, you can't have a tent on that property, and I said, it's our property, why can't we have a tent on the property? Because it's not licensed premise,
Right,
okay?
Ms. Kudiak, if I may interrupt you on that.
It's a
one.
long process.
I know that part of it. I'm wondering why you need the answer now.
I-
If it tied into a
Yeah,
financial.
he doesn't know.
No, I don't, but I
Okay.
just, if we are gonna approach something, I'd like to have all the ducks in a row
Okay.
and be up and
Yeah.
up with the city.
So it
Makes
has no
sense.
impact on the cost or
Right.
anything like that, going forward?
Depending if it comes down and it goes up, you know,
Okay.
those are the only things
Okay.
that it does.
All right, thank you.
Kinda like
And I was
asphalt.
just under the assumption it was ending from what last week's was, it said, or
Every-
not
every-
last week, that
everything
it was
was
coming
done,
to
right.
this date. So we
Right.
just thought it was an extension of what
Right.
happened previously, where you guys, allowed us to be able to have the last 2 dates.
Okay, thank
So-
you.
Okay, moving on. Next item on the agenda is item 14. This is a resolution to approve a Fourth Amendment to the development agreement between the City of West Allis and
Motion to
Cobalt
approve.
Partners.
Second.
Any discussion? Favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
All right, if you'd like to hear more about that, I can explain it, but
No,
We had the,
we had
the
a,
meeting, right?
yeah, we had during CDA.
Patrick, nothing changed?
there was a change to it.
Aw, come on, man.
Number,
You didn't tell us that.
I'll be honest with you,
reconsider, Mr. Chair.
I received a copy of the change at 5:30 tonight.
Okay, yeah, okay.
So that's why I did not have a chance to tell anyone else.
Okay.
So if, yeah, there's a motion to reconsider, if you don't
Motion to
mind.
reconsider.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Can I just want to restate what this Fourth Amendment's for. One, it's part of the new market tax credit closing for the Home to Suites on South 70th Street. Things are moving along great. They want to set up a groundbreaking date, et cetera. But with all the entities that are involved, there's always some little change to get the closing. So at the CDA meeting, we presented this, and it's a development certification and a estoppel letter. One, we had to change the completion date to June 30th, 2023. Then we had to waive our repurchase rights of the land that the hotel sits on. That's collateral to the city,
Right.
and now it's really collateral to the bank.
Right.
That makes sense. But there's one of the things within the development agreement is if the developer does not hit certain assessment values, there's an ability to put an assessment on the property for a shortfall. So we have a shortfall agreement within the development agreement. While the hotel entity, that land is sold to a different entity and a different ownership,
That is not party to the development
not
agreement.
party to the development agreement. So they want us to waive the right to put a shortfall assessment on the hotel parcel. So in other words, we would bill Cobalt separately for if they don't hit a certain value. And we just got this clause at 5:30 tonight, so, which I understand why they do that. The bank doesn't want to be, given something that the developer's not performing, the ability to put a shortfall on the hotel. And that's a different ownership group, so.
So what I'd ask from the committee tonight is to give us a chance to review it, because the provision refers back to some language in the original development agreement,
Right.
basically saying the $10.24
yeah.
$10.24 million worth of value would no longer be part of the original equation of the 25.1 guaranteed. That's how it originally looks, or how I think it might be. But what I want to verify essentially is that ultimately Cobalt is going to guarantee $25.1 million of assessed value, including the hotel, whether or not Cobalt, the development agreement party, still owns the hotel or not. 25.1 million of those two combined, however it works out. Whether the same entities own the hotel or not, it doesn't matter, but we want to guarantee that 25.1. The way I read it in the about 15 minutes I had to review, it sounds as though that 25.1 is reduced by 10.24 million. That's how it originally looked when I first looked at it, but I just want to verify that that's not the case.
That. I did call the developer in between the last meeting and this, and if they are short of the 10,240,000 on value, they would pay the deficit of the shortfall.
Okay.
So they're agreeing to that principle.
Okay.
So I want to make sure under this approval tonight that we grant Kale the ability to review this final.
That's what I was
It's
gonna
gonna
ask. Can we
evolve.
approve it subject to approval of the
and
city
if he
attorney?
vetoes it, then we come back to the council.
Yes, so if you can approve it, what I'd ask is a motion to approve the amendment under the condition that the attorney's office verifies that the $25.1 million promised assessed value will hold true under however the circumstances are, but would hold true. If that's the motion, then I'm
Is there a
satisfied.
motion?
Yep,
So moved.
Second. Second?
yep.
So moved
Mr.
and
Chair,
seconded.
Mr.
Any
Chair?
discussion?
Who makes the payment,
Cobalt.
Cobalt.
even if he doesn't own the hotel?
That's
Correct.
exactly what I'm looking into, but that's
Okay.
how I think it should be, yes. So, that's how I think it has to be.
Yeah, so I was thinking too.
But I wanna, like I said, I just wanted to get into the development agreement and verify that.
Okay.
Yes, please do
Any
and let
further
us.
discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Thank you for the
Thank you.
reconsideration.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.